Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Just Two Brothers podcast, where we will be sharing our journey so far and some of the simple tactics we've learned that have helped us become great leaders.
Welcome back to part 2 of conflict resolution, where we continue our discussion from last week, but this week we take a dive into resolving conflict between children, spouses, and other family members. Some of you might agree with us, and others might very well disagree, but we'll leave that up to you, and we hope you enjoy the episode.
I think from here we move into home.
So yeah, family conflict, home,
Not family. I'm going to use in a different
significant other.
context. Yes, your home, your house. That's where I want to start. Family, I believe, is different. Spouse or significant other. Or should we start with kids first? Start with something a little bit easier since we've already kind of touched on that.
Yeah, we talk about kids.
Let's start with kids.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's just like dealing with people. Like you said, everybody in the workplace, people are a bunch of kids.
I am going to defer more to you on this one. And the reason for that is because I had stepkids.
Right.
In order to protect all parties, I was not allowed to do a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
As they've gotten older, I have been able to be more involved with, it's not even disciplining. The kids are good kids. There's not much to worry about at all from either of them. So it's just been discussions as they've gotten older and talking to them and explaining things mistakes I made where I could have done better, things I did right, and why I think some mistakes shouldn't be made. But hey, you're free to do whatever you want. So that's more of the discipline I'm used to, or the conversations I'm used to. I don't have much experience with kids, in all honesty.
Yeah, and
Abby and Jen was young, but Abby was a little bit older, but still, like I just didn't get involved with that because we didn't want kids to resent us. We didn't want parents to be upset that I was doing discipline. So
there were boundaries set, and there was a boundary you couldn't cross.
We just
with
left
parenting.
we just left it alone at that, and it sucked at times because I knew what I wanted to do. But even that doesn't mean it's right.
Right.
I have no clue if ways I wanted to do things are right or wrong or anything. So I don't have anything to base it on.
And in all reality, I mean,
I know what we did, and I know what worked and didn't work out of that stuff.
A lot of it seems you got some great
absolutely
kids. Wonderful kids, love them to death, and that they turned out just fine.
Yep.
They're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
And
they have things to figure out, just like all of us. And I'm hoping they all do, but.
Yep. But as far as stuff with kids, I've dealt with it on a lot of levels between my kids arguing and, like I was saying earlier, unless it's something big, like somebody did something when somebody was telling them to not do it, then I had to get involved and like, look, how would you feel if they were doing the same thing to you? Well, I wouldn't like it. Okay. The conversation's done.
It's pretty simple.
I just had that conversation with them yesterday. Ari and Colt were fighting over something. I think Ari was pushing Colt. And Colt told her to stop. He said, I just don't want you to do that. I said, how would you feel if he was doing the exact same thing to you? Bad. Okay. don't treat him in a way that you don't want to be treated. If you want him to treat you nicely, treat him the same way. Don't push him around if you don't want to be pushed around. Simple as that. Problem solved, right? Yeah, I guess you're right. I know I'm right. But most of the time, I mean, it's no different than dealing with coworkers, dealing with team members. There's either a miscommunication or, I mean, kids are blunt.
That is true.
Until you squash it and if you parent in a way that's going to scare them or deter them from being open and honest with you, kids will tell you anything and everything. They will tell you how they're feeling. They will tell you what you did to make them feel a certain way. And they just want to be listened to, just like anybody else. And Ari and I have had a lot of conversations of, Dad, I don't like the way that you do this. And growing up, I mean, we
Has Colt yet? And what's the age gap? 2 years?
a year and a half.
Year and a half? Okay. That's what I thought.
Colt does sometimes, but it's more or less I'm being a little bit too rough on him. I mean, roughhousing, wrestling, whatever.
But he does voice.
He'll say, Dad, I'm not okay with you doing that.
Okay.
And all right, I didn't realize that I did something too much. Yeah.
I guess I'm just impressed
all the
that
time, like,
he
Dad,
communicates that at
You hurt
as
me,
young
I
as he
would
is.
appreciate it if you didn't do that.
Yeah.
Or, I didn't like that you said that, Dad. That made me feel scared because I thought you were mad at me. And usually I can tell, right? I mean, they don't
hide their emotions well.
Huh?
They don't hide their emotions well.
No, and
No kids do.
Not all. They won't always.
You hurt their feelings, especially girls.
Yes, and that's something I had to learn. We grew up with 4 brothers.
Yep.
Dude, I had no clue how to deal with a girl, how to deal with the emotion. That was probably one of the biggest things.
I was scared to talk to him until I was like 20.
Yeah, dude, and I had a daughter and was scared to have conversations with my wife because I still didn't know how to talk to women.
Yep.
That I didn't know how to deal with the emotions. I didn't know how to navigate that.
I figured out pretty early on is just screw it, be blunt, because now I hear about we can bleep this periods and everything else. I hear about like point blank
conversation.
It doesn't matter if it does not matter.
It doesn't matter if anybody's around either. This is what we're talking about. This is our house. This is what's gonna happen. If you don't like it, you can get the fuck out. I'm pretty sure I've had that conversation before.
Probably with the youngest one.
Yeah. If you don't like it, you can leave.
Yep.
All right, love you, Jay.
Yep, pretty much.
But yeah, Colt will usually tell me if I'm hurting him or if I scared him or something, but usually I don't have to pry it out of him, but you can tell something's wrong. And your kids want attention from you and they want to play. They want to feel loved, they want attention, and that's it. They don't want to ruin that by telling you that you did something that bothered them. Because they're afraid that, well, if I tell you, you're just not going to do any of that anymore. Or whatever. I mean, maybe you won't ever play with me again because I told you you bothered me. And it's just, you have to reassure them. Like, that's not at all what the problem is. That's not at all what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And just gotta look at their face, and if I can see tears, or they won't look at me, or they kind of just go and sit down in another room, I know I gotta go and address something. Like, what's going on?
Do you do it immediately, or do you wait a little while? Do you let them sit?
Situation depends. If I don't know what caused the issue, I will go find out right away. If I notice an attitude change or a shift in their emotions, I will address it immediately. What's going on? Nothing. Don't lie to me. I know something's going wrong. I can't help you unless you talk to me. There's no way I can help you unless you tell me what's wrong, and then we can move on from then problem solved, or we'll find out how to resolve the problem. And usually when this happened, or when you like Colt wrestling with him, well, you squeezed me a little too much and it hurt my chest. I don't realize that I'm hurting you. I'm sorry.
Right.
I was squeezing you. I did not mean to do that to you. It won't happen again. If it happens again, tell me.
Right.
And now, if we're wrestling around or we're playing or I hug him, Dad, you're squeezing me a little bit too hard.
Perfect.
All right.
Yep.
Lighten up on the grip and we're done.
Yep.
Problem solved. Aria, a lot of the time, it's more her feelings got hurt by something that was said.
That one I know.
Or a
about.
tone in my voice, or whatever. Like you were saying, just the way that you said something that made me feel
I could
this
send
way.
Jen running to her bedroom crying when she was younger just by the tone I said something, because I hurt her feelings.
Yep.
Are you kidding me?
Because I took the way that you said that. This is how I took it.
Sorry,
and
I
it hurt my
didn't mean
feelings.
to.
And, talk to me. Tell me what it is that I did that made you feel that way, and then we'll talk about it. If there was a reason for the way that I said it, if I said it a certain way to get that reaction out of you, it was for a reason. Like if I had to raise my voice, which is rarely ever with my kids nowadays, if I have to raise my voice, they usually know it's because they didn't listen the first couple times.
Right.
And I know a lot of the time, usually it's just like I didn't like the way you said something, and I just had to find out what it was, what the reason behind it was, and if there was a reason where I had to raise my voice or I had to escalate the situation. I know a lot of the times it could be said, like maybe I wasn't doing like we said earlier, if somebody doesn't do what they're supposed to do, most of the time it's because you failed as a leader to explain it to them. And there's been plenty of times where that's been the case with my kids. There's some times where kids just don't listen.
No, that's not
And
true.
I will raise my voice, but I will always go back and I will talk to them about it, because it always affects them. It always gets their emotions going. It always hurts their feelings. And it hurt my feelings when you yelled at me. Yep, I understand that. Why did I yell? Well, because we were moving slow. Okay. Help me help you and move faster. When I tell you we have things to do, places to be, something has to be done, I need you to help me. The other option is we can wake up earlier, or we can start getting ready earlier. We can make as much time as we need to, or we can do what we usually do. You just have to actually work with me. And then it's, okay, we get it. Until the next day, and then it happens again. And then it's just kids being kids, and in the mornings, moving slow, whatever. But most of the time, there's something that I did wrong. Talk about why you feel that way. Talk you down, and talk through it. If there's a good reason for why I made a decision, or I said something, or I told them they can't do something, I just explain to them. I understand that you don't understand why I made that decision. Some things you can't explain to children because they don't understand why you can't have ice cream every single night. Well, you got to eat healthy foods. You got to know what you put in your body. We can't do that every single night. It will not pay off in the long run if we feed you ice cream every single night. I'm sorry. That's a decision I have to make as a parent. I would have made the same decision as you would as a kid. I want ice cream for dinner. I was so mad when we had to wait till after dinner for our dessert. Let's just have dessert now and I'd be happy.
Yep.
But you have to make certain decisions, and kids aren't going to understand all the time. and that it sucks. You can do your best to explain it the best way possible, but sometimes you have to make a decision as a parent and say, this just is the decision that has to be made. Same with as a leader in the workplace. Sorry, this is the call that's being made. This is what has to happen.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether you like it or not, that's end of conversation.
Right.
And it's amazing how easy it is to talk to kids and work with kids when you actually talk to them like people. They have feelings.
That's a big one.
Don't talk
Treat
down
them like human beings.
Yeah, don't talk down to your kids because they're kids.
Right.
Because they see everything that happens. They're watching you. They watch every reaction, every interaction you have with other people. They pay attention.
That is one thing I can say is true. I've always treated the girls as if they were older, and that kind of gains respect with them because somebody's not they don't want to be treated like a kid when they're 10, 11, 12, 13.
Right.
They don't want to be considered an 8, 9-year-old little kid anymore. No, they're a big kid, and even if they're not, there's still certain ways you can treat them.
Yeah.
Like they're older than they are, and take those opportunities to do that.
And give them expectations based on their age.
Yeah.
Like, look, you're this age now. Now it's time to start doing this.
Right.
Time to move past those little kid things that we used to do and start doing other things that older kids do. And it's okay to start growing into that stuff. And I've had that conversation with him plenty of times. Colt puts his pants on backwards all the time. And dude, you're 7 years old now. How are you still putting the pants on backwards? Oh, I just didn't notice. Okay, 7-year-old boys, they know how to put the pants on, dude.
Jen still, every single night at dinner, Jen drops food on the table because she will not lift her plate up and put it next to the pot or pan of food. She leaves it sitting down, stands up, leans way over, scoops it, and carries it across the table. So every single night at dinner, she spills something on the table. She has done that for 15 years now.
Oh, I can see that. I'm sure I've seen her do it plenty of times too. But yeah, it's like
there's some things
I
like we
dude.
can't fix that. She just does it. Like she just won't. At this point I've given up. Jen, clean up your mess. Now I just make Jen wipe up the table so Mom doesn't have to do it.
Colt will not move his plate after it's been set on the dinner table. So if it's too far away from him, he will just eat it across the gap. And he usually drops all of his food on the table because he sits farther away from the table than he needs to. And then just spills it all over. Like, move the plate closer. Let's eat over the plate like we tell you every single night. Oh, I forgot.
Kids are weird.
But, I mean, as far as resolving conflicts with them, I mean, usually it's a misunderstanding or I'm doing something wrong. And I just have to hear their feelings out because I don't know how
What about between the two of them?
The two of them?
When they're arguing with each other. How have you handled it wrong before? Can you think of any times where you may have mishandled it?
There's been times where I yelled instead of actually handling the situation. I just told them to stop. Didn't give an explanation right away. Didn't do anything. Just yelled at them, and I felt bad about it. And I ended up having to go and talk to them later.
Those ones are always the worst too. Where you're like, shit. Yep, shouldn't have yelled. There.
And dude, I
got to go own it now.
I dwell on every decision that I make with my kids. And if I feel like I made a wrong decision, I will sit on that for my entire day. And there's been several times where I've handled stuff wrong. usually I just go back and say, look, I shouldn't have done that. And I'm sorry that I did. But I got upset. I shouldn't have gotten upset with you. And I'm sorry. But I make mistakes too. And usually it'll be, that's all right, Dad. It's okay. Give me a hug. We move on. I know. It's not a big deal. And the situation's resolved. Like, I screwed up. Oh, okay. Like, I tell my kids all the time too, like, nobody, when I took you guys home, nobody gave me a manual.
God.
Your mom and I did not get manuals. We did not get instructions. We're winging it. I'm winging it. I don't know what the hell I'm doing as a dad. I'm just doing the best I can. And that, being that honest with my kids, I think helps. Because they realize that nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
And that's important for them to see, like, you make mistakes too.
It's important to be vulnerable with your kids and
Yes.
let them know that you make mistakes as well.
Yes.
And it's okay to make mistakes.
And that they're loved despite their mistakes.
Yes.
And I tell them that all the time. Like, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to screw up. You're going to fight. You guys are going to do things that upset me, or I'm going to do things that upset you. But guess what? I love you.
I like to find something
That's not gonna
similar that I
change.
did that was just as stupid and say, guess what I did? Just to kind of like
All
level
the
it out
time.
for them.
All the time. And I
Now
mean,
that the kids are getting older, I have more and more dumbass stories to share with them. So it's going to get interesting here. Ab's going to be 21 here soon. So.
yep. Abby getting older, Jay getting older.
I have more stories for them. Not that I haven't shared most of my dumbassery with them already to warn them, but like you said, honesty is big. Be honest, be vulnerable. And that, I think, I can't speak from experience, but I think that would be, I think that's easier for women. That's why kids tend to be closer to their moms.
Emotionally, yeah.
But dads need to break down that barrier too.
It's okay it's okay to be emotional with your kids. It's okay
Yes.
to share your emotions with your kids.
Yes.
They
share life with your kids.
Families-
Don't hide them from life. Don't shelter your kids from life. Life sucks sometimes. Don't shelter them from that. And don't shy away from it.
And it's important as a man in a family, in a relationship, that yes, you're expected to be the rock, but you have to be vulnerable. You need to be able to be vulnerable. You can't just be a rock that never budges.
Every rock has a support system.
No emotions or anything.
It may not always be the best support system. It may be a bottle or pills or drugs or God only knows what. But it could be a friend, could be a relative, maybe your own mother, father, whatever it might be. You can have a support system to reach out to and help you deal with stuff and let your kids know that yeah, it may not be your wife. Maybe you are a single dad or a single mom. No, you don't have a spouse.
Yeah, but I have people to talk to. I have people that I can go to if I need something.
Yeah,
and I let them know that.
Exactly.
And I talk to them about things too, like, hey, what's your opinion on this? If you were dealing with this situation at school, how would you handle that? Let them make a decision, and usually you can apply that same thing to life.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that.
Just get their opinion on it. Anything that you go through can be applied to a kid in some way, shape, or form, for the most part. I mean, I can go back. That's the best part of raising my kids at the age that they are now. Like, I remember being 7, 8, 9 years
Yeah,
old.
don't forget you were a kid too. And don't forget what it felt like to be a kid. Hell, don't forget to be a kid every once in a while.
Yeah. Dude, we run around the playground all the time. We play silly games all the time.
Hold on. I'm going to stop us right there. How about, what was that, 2 years ago? 2.5, 3 years ago? You and I up at the property?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think we had a couple drinks. But we legit ran around the woods and played The Floor is Lava.
And we had fun.
Yeah, we had a blast.
It was a great couple hours of just dicking around in the woods,
Being dumb.
climbing on trees. The floor's lava. The floor's lava.
Yes, there were drinks involved, but still,
You can still
we
have
had a
fun and
blast. And we were just dumb kids.
Yeah. And that's
Don't forget to be a kid, and don't forget what it's like to be a kid, because you need to relate to your own kids.
and they
They want that. They
need to
crave
be able
that
to relate to you.
relation.
Because if once they realize, if your kids feel like they cannot relate to you in any way, shape, or form, you can't maintain a relationship with them, because they're going to find people that they relate to,
Yeah,
and they'll find their own family elsewhere.
absolutely. Absolutely, and it's not always a good thing.
No. Nope. You can go down a dark path, or it could be a positive path. It all depends.
Yeah.
How about spouses? I'm pretty sure that's that covers pretty much everything that I've dealt with, at least at my kids' age. It's all understanding. Hear them out. Hear their side of the story, and don't just assume that you're right.
Relate to them, yep.
Have some empathy. Just
Mm-hmm.
hear people out.
Yeah, so spouses, significant others, in whatever form that may be. Usually, this is like most problems, it's miscommunication or a complete lack of communication.
Most of the time.
Yeah. Sometimes you can over communicate, and that escalates into yelling because you're not taking that time to step back, look at it level headed, and realize that, hey, they have their opinion too. But that's all a marriage is. You have to work together to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
You can't forget that.
Right.
And in order to work together, you have to communicate. If you stop communicating, I mean communicate, not talking, not, hey, how was your day? Great. How was yours? Great. All right. When's dinner? I mean actually talking. If you lose that, that's where it
You watch
starts.
it crumble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because some things they do every single day is going to start pissing you off. And then you're going to narrow in on that, and it's going to frustrate you. And then you're going to find something else to be frustrated about. Meanwhile, they're doing the same damn thing.
Because they don't know that anything's wrong.
Yeah.
Because nothing's even been said. Sometimes, yeah, sure, if you said something, but have that conversation, say, look, I've told you several times, this is how it makes me feel, or this is what this is doing. What can we do to resolve it? And if you don't have that conversation, it just escalates.
Yeah. And it's not going to fix itself.
No.
Ignoring it is not going to fix it.
And that's, yeah, nothing good ever comes of it.
You have to be considerate, though. You can't expect the other person to always agree with you.
Mm-mm.
Sometimes you're going to have to agree with them. Sometimes you're going to have to agree to disagree.
Right.
And that's okay. But even if you agree to disagree, you still have to agree on a path forward.
Right, because anything's swept
You
under the
can't,
rug.
yeah, you can't just leave it at, well, all right, we're just not going to, no, okay, so how are we going to handle this future forward?
Right, because otherwise it's gonna come back up again,
Exactly.
or it's gonna destroy us, and then we're just done. But yeah, communication is the main factor in it. I mean, and sometimes,
I can't think of a problem where talking about it, actually talking, not just getting pissed about it, hasn't fixed everything.
sometimes people don't change. Sometimes people are not willing to see the flaw
Well,
in the error in their ways,
yeah,
and
and
they will
that
not
goes
change.
for
And I mean,
anything.
that can go both ways too. Both parties
Yeah.
can have that same exact problem, or it could be one sided. And sometimes there's issues where people have addictions, like you were saying. People have their vices or whatever, whether that's alcohol, drugs, sex, money, anything. They're all vices, and they can all tear people apart.
Right.
And if people aren't willing to change, there's only so many conversations that can actually be had. As long as you have the conversation and put forth an effort, there's only so much you can do before some people just don't change.
It is important to remember, though, that, again, we're all entitled to our own views. And we all have our own paradigm.
Yeah. We're all living in our own world, our own feelings, our own emotions.
Exactly. Built on the foundation of our environment that's been around us, that's made us who we are today. And not a single one of us is the same. So there are some things that, one, you may hold near and dear to your heart that somebody else does not. So you have to consider that and realize if those things are important to you or not, and how to adjust to that if needed.
Right.
You also need to understand if your paradigm is good or bad, and if what you're fighting for is good or bad. And if that's what needs to be fought for, you have decisions to make.
Yeah.
If there are certain things that you value that you can't compromise, and that can go for just about anything.
Yeah.
Employers as well. If you have certain beliefs, as long as it's the right belief, and I guess there's how do you classify the right belief?
The way I look at the way I live my life is, as long as I'm doing what I need to do for me to be happy, and I'm not directly taking away from somebody else's happiness by doing that. So I'm not doing anything to you to affect you. I'm just living my life. I'm not outright doing something to hurt you, to take away from your happiness. Then I'm doing everything I can. So the way I've looked at it with employers is, you tell me that I can't do something, but as long as we can agree that what I'm doing is it's not going to affect what's happening here. It's not going to affect my performance in the workplace. If it is not going to have a negative side effect that will impact you, then the conversation's over. If you're not willing to understand that and see my point of view from that perspective, where this will not affect you, then I guess we're going to have to agree to disagree, and I'll walk away.
But what about in a marriage? If you come to a point to where there is something you strongly believe in, but the other person isn't living up to what you see needs to be lived up to uphold that value.
then that's where you have a decision to make, and divorce is absolutely okay.
That's what I'm getting at. And
Yep.
that goes for all kinds of different situations.
It is okay to walk away from
Yes.
anybody, anything, any employer, any workplace, anything.
Any relationship.
If it no longer serves you and does you more harm than good, you have the right to walk away, and you absolutely should. Simple as that.
Yes.
I don't care who it is. It could be your spouse. If you come to a point in your relationship where you are unhappy more than you are happy, there's no way that you're going to be happy in the situation you're in. Sometimes divorce is the best way.
Yes.
Same with in any that's the beauty of relationships before marriage. Marriage obviously should be held sacred. It shouldn't be taken as something lightly. Where
And as lightly
you get
as it is
married
nowadays.
and we'll just
yeah.
get divorced.
I was
if
just
we don't
going to
like
say, it is important to make sure you try. Try to communicate before you just throw in the
Absolutely.
towel.
Yeah,
You have to try. Don't just give up like I feel happens far too often nowadays.
because it's too easy to give up.
Yes.
It
And
is,
we're all looking for the easy way out of everything. Look at everything we do nowadays. It's
it is too
simple as
easy
possible.
to. It's much harder to do the hard work of having conversations you don't want to have, trying to work through issues, and actually making something work that is worth making work to you. But sometimes you can get to a point where this is no longer serving me.
Yeah, it's toxic.
Yeah. And you have to walk away. If you don't walk away at that point, you are causing yourself undue suffering.
Yes.
And that is it's your own cross to bear at that point. And I feel we were raised Catholic. Divorce was not something that was an option. Wasn't talked about as an option. We heard it, and it was always a bad thing.
Yep.
At least from what I remember. So correct me if I'm wrong.
Crickets.
My marriage I tried to make work. I could have done things better. I could have communicated things better. I could have worked on my temper. There's plenty of things that I could have done better. But we just did not see eye to eye on certain things. And there was a point in time where it was either I'm going to be the discomfort of my current situation sounded worse than the possibility of something better, or the possible suffering of figuring it out on my own. And
Okay.
because it's going to be shitty either way. If you're unhappy in a relationship, if you're unhappy in a marriage, if you're unhappy at your job, but I got to find a new job, maybe that's going to suck more. The grass isn't always green around the other side. Sometimes the comfort that you're in, sometimes you're comfortable with negative, and some people are okay with that. But it's important to know that you can walk away. Yeah, that's as simple as it is. It's okay to walk away as long as you do your part and you try to make it work. But it takes two people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any relationship, any conflict, it takes both parties. Both parties have to be willing to resolve the conflict and have to be willing to have that conversation, have the hard conversations.
And 9 times out of 10, probably again, more often than that, need to be able to accept some responsibility for something somewhere and say, I will work to correct
Because
that.
you probably could have done something, you probably did something wrong. You were probably in the wrong.
But in some way, shape, or form, somewhere along the line, absolutely. So yes, there's and either way, there may be a better way to handle the situation. So you can come away not free and clear of doing anything, but find something to do better, because there is something to do better. But yes, everybody must agree or must be willing
willing to talk, willing to at least have a conversation.
Accept responsibility and actually want to fix the issue.
But if one person doesn't want to fix the issue and the other person does, it's not a
never
one-way
going
street.
to work. And if that's how it is, I don't care if it's employer, relationship, family. If that's a toxic relationship filled with negativity and things that don't move everyone in the right direction, it is okay to cut those ties.
Not everyone in the right direction. Because not everybody wants to go in the same direction.
I guess I more meant that in the circle that you keep around you, they're the most influential. The
Yes.
people you interact with
You
are the most
sum of your 5 closest friends.
Exactly. And I guess that's what I meant by kind of your own little
If you have
circle.
one person poisoning that whole group, it's going to ruin
yeah.
everybody. And sometimes you have to say, sorry, but you're not welcome here anymore.
Right. And
that's okay.
Yes, I meant that as in your group of
Yep.
get that out of your group.
Yep.
Because that's going not necessarily bring the other people down because there's probably no interaction there. But that one negative energy, that one bad thing, toxic relationship will affect all of it.
Absolutely.
Bringing it back to spouse, I know we kind of got off there, but spouse,
Not really. I mean,
it's all related.
You have to be willing to have a conversation. You have to be willing to be wrong, because chances are you're probably wrong.
An actual conversation. That's the most important part, not the just day-to-day bullshit. Have conversations. Real conversations.
And sometimes
be vulnerable.
Sometimes you need to hear it from somebody else to have a conversation or hear. I mean, I've done that for you guys in the past. Like,
Yeah.
hey, talk about it.
Yeah.
What the hell's the problem? Talk about it. And you just have to talk. Just a breakdown in communication.
When that whole thing went down not that long ago, it was actually kind of funny because you two were talking. And then I messaged her, like, I think on a Thursday. And I said, because I think at Monday or something like that, I was like, what is wrong? I know something's wrong. Will you talk to me yet?
Right.
No, I'm fine. Okay. Thursday finally rolled around. I sent her a message while I was at work. I was like, look, I know you need to talk to me. So figure out what you need to say and I'll be home tonight. And then we ended up, she said, yeah, I've been talking to Joe trying to figure out how to talk to you about all this anyways. And I come to find out it's all
it was
ridiculous
all little stuff that you guys could have talked out in 5 minutes anyway.
Yeah, she's ready to fucking divorce me. And here I'm trying to be a nice guy about stuff. And it was honest to God, 100% just miscommunication. Yeah. I thought I was being nice and respectful, trying to pay attention to her, and she thought I was being an asshole.
And all I said was, have you talked to him about it? Because maybe that's not what he's trying to do. Tell him that it bothers you. Tell him. But you're either going to have the conversation or you're going to watch your marriage crumble.
Yeah.
What's worse?
Right.
The uncomfort... Is the uncomfort of the situation of having that conversation worse than the discomfort of no longer having what you have?
Right. And I had a hard time not laughing when she was talking to me about it because I'm like, are you kidding me? This is what you're so mad about? Are you, really? I can fix this in half a second.
Right.
I'm doing it nice. I'm sorry if you've misinterpreted that, but I am doing this to try to be nice to you.
Right.
So please stop thinking that because I'm doing this so I actually pay attention to you. So I'm not ignoring you. And then it was like, what? Really? Yes. Oh, okay then.
Get a phone call the next day. Well, that wasn't so bad. Everything's much better now. Like, see,
Yeah.
All it took was a conversation.
Yep.
Sometimes you need the other people to talk to, though.
That was a lack of communication because of, I guess, miscommunication. I don't know really how I could have explained to her what I was doing, because this was my fix to an issue she had told me about.
But sometimes you can't explain anything until you know that there's a problem. And you didn't know
Yeah,
that there was a problem
right.
because you did what you did to
But
hopefully resolve a problem.
trying to look at it to see what I could have done. Yeah, I probably could have communicated better
your solution, communicated your solution to what the problem was before and said,
Yeah.
hey, I'm going to start doing this to make you feel this way.
Right.
And she probably would, you never would have had the conversation in the first place.
Exactly.
But
that's not something you think about either.
No.
I guess I will probably more now, but until that happened.
And maybe that's something that should happen more often in relationships. When somebody says, you're doing this, I don't like that happens, or this makes me feel that way. If you come up with something, or you're going to start doing something to make changes, then maybe it's a good idea to sit down and say, here's the solution I'm offering up right now. What do you think of that? And get their opinion on it. Just like you were saying, like you do with teammates. Get an opinion from them and say, how do you think we should solve this? Or here's my solution. What do you think of it? Handle it the exact same way. And I think that's everything pretty much. It's all pretty much the same. You can resolve most conflicts the exact same way, regardless of what the situation is, regardless of who the person is, spouse, sibling, anybody. It's conversation.
Yeah.
And if you've had the conversation so many times and it hasn't changed, sometimes it's okay to just walk away.
People always ask, you ask the couple that's been married for 60 years, what's the key to a long marriage?
Great sex.
Well, yes. But number one is communication.
Yeah.
Without communication, you won't make it anywhere. You have to talk and be real people. Don't hide shit.
Nope.
You married them for a reason. They are the person you are supposed to be able to rely on. Rely on them.
Anything hidden's going to be found out about, and you're right back to you lied, you lost trust, and that can be hard to bring back.
Yep. I think that covers that one. Move on to family.
Yeah.
Not real sure where to start with family.
No.
Family can get pretty big and quite the wide age gap.
Big thing I've learned in the past couple of years is it's okay to set boundaries. Regardless of who it is. At a certain point in time, you have to set boundaries with your siblings, with your parents, sometimes with your parents more than anybody else.
Parents need to understand, like we were talking about a little bit ago with paradigms. Their paradigm may not be the same as their kid's paradigm. Certain things that parents want, kids may not want.
Right.
Not all kids want to go to college. And especially nowadays, there are so many oddball jobs where kids can make money. And no, it's not just OnlyFans. There are so many ways kids can make money nowadays. It's insane. The YouTube creators, they're making bank.
Just doing videos.
Whatever they want all day.
Yep.
Making fun videos. Like, there's crazy stuff. So don't think that what you want for your kid is what they want. And be very careful about pushing that on them.
Right. And there's also a point in time where you have to understand when your kids become adults and they are adults,
Yes.
and you have to treat them as adults,
Yes.
no longer like your children.
Yes.
You have to respect them as adults, like people, like anybody else you would meet.
I'm getting attacked by a pterodactyl.
Like old June bug. But that's something that I've seen in a lot of family dynamics is the parents are still, I'm the parent, I make the decisions, you guys should listen to me. No, I'm going to make my own decisions. This is not your decision to make anymore.
Right.
I've been raised. You did your job. I'm on my own.
Yeah, this is my life, not yours.
Right. You can set boundaries. This is somewhere I'm not okay with you doing this. Set that boundary.
Yep.
And if they don't respect it, you have that conversation. And at some point in time, it's okay to cut your parents off too. Simple as that. Sometimes you have to divorce your parents.
Yeah.
You have to divorce siblings. You have to divorce anybody. Fire them, divorce, whatever. It's the same thing. Sometimes there comes a point in time where you've drawn a line in the sand. You've agreed on it. Like we were saying with teams. We've set this boundary. It's not going to get crossed. If it gets crossed, okay, time to be done then. If there's no understanding, you have to be able to understand everybody's point of view too. Your parents sometimes don't have the right point of view.
Right. And it may not necessarily be a wrong point of view. It's just their point of view, and it's
based
not the same
on
as
their
yours.
Experiences
That's
and
exactly
the
it.
life that they've lived.
Their paradigm. Yep.
And sometimes you have to approach situations. You're going to approach every situation
Right.
completely different because of the life you've lived, the
Exactly.
experiences you've had, and there comes a point in time where
And that's okay.
yes,
Your kids are going to grow up too.
that's
Aria
good.
and Colt, Jenna and Abby are going to be their own person one day, and I'm not going to be okay with some of the shit they do. And I just have to say, okay,
Yep.
I'm here if you fall. If you don't, I'm there for you. Guess what, though? I'm proud of you either way.
Right.
As long as they're not being destructive, you should be proud, especially if they're, you may think it's crazy, but maybe they're pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
Let kids explore. That's how we get to where we're at. Don't kill that because of your own paradigm.
Or your own worries and concerns. You can't crush their dreams and their ambitions because you're worried about
It may suck to sit there and bite your tongue as your kid says they're going to quit their high-profile lawyer job to go start up some burger shack. But bite your tongue. I'm proud of you. That's awesome. I hope you kick some ass.
That's where you find your passion. And that's what makes you happy. 100%.
Just because something makes you happy does not mean that same thing is going to make anybody else happy.
Right.
So don't do that to them.
The life you've lived might not be the life that they want to live.
Exactly.
And you have to be okay with that.
Be supportive regardless, as
Right.
long as it's not destructive.
Destructive, right.
And at that point, you can't criticize. That's another thing. Make sure you don't criticize. Find a way to pull a positive out of it. Teach a lesson. Don't just criticize. But I bet if you would have done this, it would have been better, right?
If you would have just listened to me, never would have happened. Yep, but I learned.
Or if somebody buys something or does something that isn't your cup of tea, don't just talk shit.
Be happy for them. Because
Yeah.
that's what makes them happy.
Man, I'd never be able to do that, but that's awesome that you did. Was it fun? Whatever it might be.
Right.
Don't shit on people. It gets old. Nobody wants all that negativity all the time. It wears you down. And like we said, you're the product of your your five
people you
closest
keep
people.
closest to you.
Ask people how they're doing, and
Get to know people because you want to know people.
yeah, like they're your friend, not just your family. Actually get to know people and figure out what excites them, what makes them happy.
Because you can make friends with anybody that way.
You don't know what people can do. You might think somebody's the weirdest thing on planet Earth, but they might be the smartest dude.
You might think people are just kind of, they're average, just regular people, and then find out later on, once you get to know them, that they've done a lot of impressive stuff.
Right.
And it blows you away. Like, holy shit, I didn't know you did all that.
Yeah, especially family, because you don't see them so often. You don't know that much about them. Get to know them. Don't just hear something and call them out for it or whatever it might be. I know there's family gossip in probably every family. Don't buy into all that. Cut it out. That's what we're
Right.
trying to do here.
Family should be supportive and not. Family should build you up and not tear you down.
Exactly.
And that, family. Yeah, you can find family anywhere that way. People that will build you up. It can be friends. Friends can be family in that way, but you find the people that build you up and make that your family. If the family around you isn't that family for you.
Yeah, no. Hopefully they are, and it's what we're all striving for. You want to be supportive.
What's funny, I was talking to the kids. Aria asked me yesterday, Dad, should we bring Sage, my dog, over to our mom's house so she can see her daughter more often? Because Sage had puppies and we kept one of the puppies
Yep.
and she stayed with my ex. I explained to her that in nature, parents raise their kids, their puppies, their whatever, their offspring, until they are capable of being on their own. And parents kick them out. Get out of here. You're on your own. Figure it out.
Legit sometimes kick them out.
Yeah, you can't have them around for certain. Usually it's breeding purposes or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was
But
thinking
it's
of
all
deer.
biological.
I've
but
seen those literally kicking deer.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
But that's that, and I told them, I said, that is what I am preparing you guys for. My goal as a parent is not to hold on to you guys the rest of my life. If you guys leave at 18 and you guys go off and do amazing things, I want you to know I'm here for you.
Yeah,
But if you never come back again, I can't change that.
right,
That's your life to live. Simple as that.
right.
You have to live it. And I think that's something that maybe we as humans tend to have a hard time of, is letting go. And just saying,
I would agree.
yep, you got to make your own decisions. You got to figure it out.
Yep.
You can't sit there and fix everything for them. You got to let your kids make mistakes.
And that's an important one. But make sure they know, and they really know and understand, that you're not going to.
Your love is unconditional.
Yes. And you're not.
Truly unconditional. Regardless of the
And you're
mistakes
not
today.
going to hold it over their head.
Right.
Again, you don't want these things to become habits, but if they make mistakes, you have to be there to pick them up, not shit on them more.
And if it becomes a habit, talk to them about the
Yes,
habit.
yes.
Don't pick at them and make snarky comments to
Right.
them about this is just the way you are.
Think of how you would want to be
Right.
talked to.
Right. And that's
Just because you're a parent does not mean you can be demeaning.
correct.
And that goes for all ages. Kids all the way up to adults.
Yep.
Just because you're somebody's parent does not mean you can be demeaning. They are still a human being.
100%.
Do we have anything else to cover? I think we've hit about every situation I had kind of written down, and I know we ran that poll a few weeks back on Facebook when we had asked what what people wanted to talk about. They told us conflict resolution, and we put a list out there. We got one or two more add-ons that we threw onto the list, but I think we've hit everything we had. If there's anything we missed, please let us know. We would love to sit down and continue talking because there's just a lot to unpack with all of this.
The biggest thing is coming at a situation from a place of understanding and trying to see both sides.
Right.
Be willing to hear it out, be willing to be wrong, and be
Right.
willing to understand somebody.
And
And you can probably resolve just about anything.
Yep.
But until you do that,
maintain your temper, communicate clearly. Should be pretty set. Again, if there's anything we missed, anything you guys want to hear more about, let us know. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're at, we're at. We're Just Two Brothers Podcast. Appreciate the support, and we'll see you guys later.
thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.